good to see all of you here today. I'm going to begin with some very wise words by our ex-president, APJ Abdul Kalam. And what he said really, really resonated with me and has probably been one of the cornerstones of my life. He said, dreams are not those that you see in your sleep. Dreams are those that do not let you sleep, keep you awake until you have gone out and achieved them. And that is something that I think stayed with me. And I'm asking you this question because it happens to me all the time. Very often, I just wake up in the middle of the night with an idea. In the old days, I had to fumble in the dark, try and switch on lights without disturbing someone else, find pen and paper, and start writing. Sometimes, just the thought of doing that would make me stop and just go back to sleep again. And when I think of that today, I wonder how many ideas were lost. Because even though they are our own ideas, and we think, oh, it's my idea, I'm never going to forget it. No such thing. By the time you have woken up in the morning, that's the end, they've gone. You'd be really lucky if you actually remembered any of those. But today, of course, you have the smartphone. Isn't it brilliant? No fumbling anymore. You wake up and you have to write down that idea, and you just simply put the phone on, go to notes, quickly make a note, and then go back to sleep, expand on it later. How many times does that happen to you? Do you guys actually suddenly wake up in the night thinking you have to write something down? Do you actually write it down? You do? Brilliant. Because I think that's what makes the difference. When you write down these little ideas, it doesn't matter when they come, whether it's the middle of the night, whether you're sitting in a bus or a train, traveling in a cab, you write it down. Never miss out the opportunity of writing something down. Because those are those little ideas that you expand on, and then you never know where they lead you. I actually have this little folder in my computer where I write down everything that I dream of. Some of them are fantastical. I am so sure they'll never happen. But it was an idea. It came to me. I wrote it down. I even expanded on it. Some really weird ones there. So I have one where I dreamed of creating a hot dog stand, which looked like a pizza, which had 8 slices, and each of those slices was a counter giving one kind of hot dog. And I thought 8 of them have to be completely different from each other. I even expanded on the whole thing. That was about 15 years ago. It's still sitting on my computer. I don't know when that might happen. I don't know whether it'll ever happen, but it's there. The other weird one was the combination of a laundromat and a food store. And the idea was that if there is a hostel, they will need both, not just one. Because everyone I know who went to a hostel doesn't like to wash clothes. They hate them. They're dirty little fellows sometimes. I know because I used to be called upon to give them haircuts. And I would look at them in absolute disdain and say, go wash your hair. IIT, awful stuff. And that's what I mean. There was one I wrote about, it was called 58.com. Because one day I realized that in this country, people are told to shut themselves off at 58, retire, go away. And I'm thinking, 58, that's when you're at your best. That's when you have the best ideas. That's when you're able to do things that you could never do when you were young. And you're told to go away down a strange rabbit hole? What are you going to do? And I thought, okay, maybe I should create this platform where I put in everything from everywhere, where a guy who's told to retire can go and use that to share his ideas and do something brilliant with the world. It's still there. It has been expanded into many categories. I'm just very tech challenged. I write it all down, but I have no idea how to go forward. There's one about a village cooperative. Now, that one, I am so certain that 5 years down the line, I am going to do it. It's about a village cooperative for women. It's about using production that is there and allowing them to stay where they are and still excel at what they do. It has a little cheesery, because there's milk, right, in the villages. And it has a little village store also, which allows them to produce whatever they want and get them out there. It also has a medical unit, because I found whenever I've gone to villages, the people who suffer the most in those villages are women. There are clinics, but almost every clinic has only male doctors. And because of that, women don't like to go and talk to the doctors. They are not able to communicate. We did a camp recently for one of those villages, and we found out that that is what our country needs the most. Not just infrastructure for medical treatment, but women, female doctors who can counsel the women of the villages. They do not know what to do. That's another one that's in one of those folders. But the point is, when you have that folder, you will move forward one day in some direction or another, because sometimes those little ideas generate other little ideas, and then you have this vision in front of you of glorious journeys that you might take. And that becomes, even though some may be fantastical, something to look forward to, something to get to, a journey that will allow you to break through and to have something to look forward to. One of those ideas, one night, kept me awake. I was tossing and turning and tossing and turning, and finally I had to wake up. This was more than the usual pen a thought and go back to sleep. This was driving me a little insane. So I woke up and I went to my computer and I started writing. It was weird, okay? I wasn't thinking of what to write. There wasn't an idea. It was a multitude of thoughts that were connecting. It was almost like little dots from across everything that I had done. And the words kept coming out and I kept writing. I had no idea what I was writing, but I was writing. Whatever thought came to mind, I kept writing. I actually did that for 3 hours. And then, when I actually sat back after I had, can't write anymore. When I actually wrote that, when I read it, I realized that it was actually reflections of my life behind a bar. Of what I saw when I stood there, what happened to me as a person as I stood there. And not only did it reflect me, but it reflected what I thought or what my perspective of life was. And I thought to myself, whoa, this is deep. I didn't think I was capable of deep stuff like this. I didn't even make any connections. And I thought, ooh, this might be a good book to have. I haven't gotten there yet. It's still there. It made me expand it from 20 ideas to about 60. I've written about 25. I have to get through the others. The thoughts are there. But maybe, just someday, it'll turn into a book that some of you might actually enjoy, because it has some crazy thoughts in it. What I'm trying to say is that you have to give it a shot. Don't think about not being able to do it. It doesn't matter how small the idea is. It doesn't matter how weird it is. Give it a shot. I don't like the word failure. I like to think of it more as not as successful as I thought I would be, because it still has value. When you say failure, there's no value. But when you say not as successful as I thought it would be. It has a modicum of value, but it also has tremendous learning. It teaches you so much. I feel sorry for people who are successful all the time. I mean, where's the learning? Where's the learning? Where's those magical moments when you look back at the mistakes you've made, laugh at yourself a little bit, and move forward to, ooh, what's next? Because that's what not being so successful does to you. It teaches you stuff. But it also tells you that if you've been able to take that risk, even get to the point where you actually went out and did stuff, it means that you are reasonably fearless, which means that you can quickly say, hey, what's next? Let's give it a shot. And every time you do that, you become a better person. You evolve to another level. You realize the capacity that you have to do stuff that you never thought you could ever get to, weird as it may be. And that's the magic of strike through. I call it a bucket list. Do everything you want. Who said that you had to be a master of one thing? You can do so much. I have some crazy ideas even today. And I know that at some stage I will go through some of them. And therefore, think of it as a bucket list. Say that to yourself and say, okay, did that. Didn't quite get there. What the hell? Ready to move on. What's next? Fearlessly, go ahead. Because it's the only way that you can live your life without any regret. Here's what happened to me one day. And one of the thoughts that I've put in that, whatever I want to call it, I think I'm going to call it spiritual sweat. Stuff that happened to me while I was sweating behind the bar that seriously not just made me pour stuff, but it opened my mind and let my soul out. Spiritual sweat. One of those was a thought. I was told to talk to a group of bankers. Bankers who had this whole grueling conference, and I was supposed to be the icebreaker for them. Now think about it. Do a mixology workshop for bankers. And I kept thinking to myself, how do I break the ice? How do I get these serious people who look at numbers and stuff to actually look at me and find some joy in what I'm going to talk to them about? I thought a little bit, and then suddenly one eureka moment happened. I wasn't sure what it was going to be like, but I said, I believe in it. What the hell? Let's do this. So I went out there and said, I'm not sure if you will agree with me, but I think a bar and a bank are pretty much similar. And you should have seen the looks I got. I mean, I can see what's happening here as well. Some of you are looking at me with absolute, what on earth is she talking about? Bar and a bank? But think about it. My first impressions of a bank were when I used to go sometimes with my dad. I'd go to the bank. It used to be all very serious, very dingy, small cubicles everywhere, lots of files. We went in, deposit some money, withdraw some money, occasionally say, okay, let's go to the locker, and then smile. My dad would say hello to a few people, and we'd walk out. Imagine walking into a bar from 40 years ago. It was pretty much like that. Dark, dingy, smoky. The shiny five-star ones were boring because it was also cold. And you'd walk in, you'd order a drink, you'd sit down, pick out a few nuts, maybe listen to some music, pay your bill, walk away. Now look at the bank. Spiffy, bright, lots of space. People, relationship managers. Now you don't walk into a bank simply to either deposit money or withdraw money. Now you go to meet the relationship manager. He manages your money. He talks to you. He gives you options. He listens to you to figure out whether you're that long-term person or you're that instant karma. I want it now. And he figures out stuff, puts it into a little basket and says, okay, this I think is going to work for you. Now think of a bar today. It's also spiffy. It's also bigger and better. It also has people who speak. And you have bartenders who are knowledgeable, who listen to you, who analyze you, and you don't even know that. As you walk in, they're looking at you to say, "Aaj main isko kya pilaunga?" They listen to your preferences. They talk to you. They're very knowledgeable about all the stuff that's in their bar. They offer you choices, and finally, after listening, will give you something that's absolutely perfect for you. How is it not similar? No, you're not convinced that a bar is like a bank or a bank is like a bar. Anyway, they were slightly better than you. At the end of it, they actually believed me. And once, of course, the drinks were made and it wet their throats a bit, they were even better, and they actually clapped for me and all that. So yeah, so I think it's about using your imagination, finding connections that may not exist, but yet finding them, making them work. And that's what I mean, that it's about believing that you can do something that may never have been thought of. And therefore, when you do things like that, when you put yourself out there, that's when things start working for you as well. So it's about believing, it's about taking risks, it's about putting yourself out there and saying, hey, it's going to happen. Thank you very much.